scrounging was a skill that Eddie had developed while growing up in Chinatown during the Depression. So Eddie, tell us about one of your successful missions.
The biggest and the best haul I ever made was a case of quinine. That's kind of ironic since I'm allergic to it. I was working in Japanese headquarters, and there was a medical officer who kept the supplies there. Dr. Hecken said to me one day, said, when you're out on the working party, see if you can scrounge up some quinine. I'm almost out. The first day, I found out where the medical supplies were. And there were 4 cases of quinine in it. I cased the place for 2 days and found a way to get through the back of the hut by untying the matting. I stole a whole case of quinine. I took it out bottle by bottle, 24 bottles from the wooden crate. Then I got the case back in order, put the top back on, put the case on the bottom, put the other 3 full cases on top, because I thought it would take some time before the Japanese medics would get down to the bottom case. I was in charge of the food baskets that day. They're not going to search today. That was my instinct. The question was, do I bring back 2 or 3 bottles at a time, or should I take the whole thing in at once? My instinct said, do it once. If you're caught, you're caught. If you take it back 6 bottles at a time, you take 4 times the chance. There was an Australian who was helping me carry in the kitchen baskets. He said, Eddie, you're going to get us killed. I said, no, they're not going to search us today. So I put some bananas on top of the baskets, and I said, I'll give you half for helping me carry it in. He said, what are you going to do with it? I said, give it to the doc for the hospital. Now, he said, if you're going to do that, I'll help you carry it in. Luckily, we got it in, because if we had been caught, we would have been turned over to the Kempitai, the equivalent, Japanese equivalent of the Gestapo.
So Eddie, do you remember how you felt when the war finally ended and you were liberated?
Each group of prisoners has a different liberation date. Ours was August 19th, 1945. They had lined us up on the parade ground, about 3,000 of us, and Warrant Officer Simpson, who was in charge of the camp, said to us, gentlemen, this is the happiest moment of my life. The Japanese commandant has asked me to inform you that the war has ended. There was absolute silence for about a minute. Then one of the British soldiers went, hip, hip, hurrah. Right after that, there was a race to see who would put up the country's flag. The second race would see whose countries had the highest flagstaff. I was thinking, holy smoke, here we go again. The same old rat race. The Americans had to make a flag because we didn't have one. That was the only time we regretted when we weren't 13 colonies anymore, because we had to cut out and sew on 48 stars. As it turned out, the Dutch flag was the first to go up, but the U.S. flag flew the highest. I had always had doubts about whether I would make it through. I remember just feeling relieved. Okay, you're still here. You made it through.
Could you describe your darkest moment during your whole ordeal as a POW of the Japanese?
My worst moment had to be in May of 1945. I had finally come to terms with my past. I was looking forward to going home and telling my mother face to face, okay, Mom, I understand what you and Pop have been trying to get through to me about what it means to be a good Chinese, and I'm going to try to live up to it. But as it turned out, my mother died in May of 45. It's strange, but I knew exactly when she died, because May was the beginning of the rainy season, and it was then when I had this strong premonition, I'm not going to see her again. There was never a time when I was more down, even when I had dysentery and malaria at the same time. So I've lived with the fact that I'm an unfilial son and a disappointment to my parents. There are two ways I can put it. If there is a life hereafter, they will be looking down and say, gee, we finally got through to that kid. If there isn't a life hereafter, I will know that I'm trying to live the life they taught me to live. So either way, it will work out. Taking my life as a whole, I've had many more good days than I've had bad ones. And even the bad ones serve a purpose. They remind me how good I have it now. In the sense that if you've never known hunger, you really don't appreciate food. If you've never been enslaved, you will not appreciate what it means to be free. When people ask me if I'm having a good day, and I know them fairly well, I will look them in the eye and say, I haven't had a bad day since the 19th of August, 1945. Whenever I start feeling sorry for myself, I can always say, no, Ed, you've got a short memory. You've forgotten the lessons you've undergone. One lesson I've learned is that every moment that you're alive, you better take advantage of it and enjoy it. Thank you.